Relieved, man. Like it's the stress of going into the fight, enemy territory, especially after having such a rough year last year, man. It's definitely a lot to deal with. So I'm feeling very, very relieved right now that I'm not questioning like what went wrong again.
You're the ranked fighter in the matchup. You're above him. So, and you're fighting a guy in enemy territory. So you didn't have a lot to gain, but you went in there, took care of business. Where do you go from there? Who's next? Who do you want next? I imagine it's somebody ahead of you in the rankings this time.
Who knows, man? We're gonna talk to the coaches this week and figure things out. Interesting to see how the Hermanson fight for fight plays out. That'll be interesting. But also, we have been talking about eyeing maybe going back down to 170. With Buckley and Gastelum leading the division, I think I'm officially the shortest, like the smallest 85er in the division. And it's nice not having to cut to 170, but man, everyone is huge. Everyone is huge. And as you get higher and higher in those rankings, you start running into those problems. So I guess we'll look at the fight. We'll see what's on there and maybe what goes next. But right now, I'm not thinking about it, man. I just fought. I got a win finally after like just a really rough year. I'm kind of stepping away from fighting. I made the money that I wanted to on that one. Sit back, hang out with the family. I got a newborn. I got fellowship going on. I got to get home to Ohio at some point to see my son. Haven't seen him in a while. I'm gonna try not to worry about fighting right now. Like
Now,
I spend a lot of time being Chris the Fighter. Like most of my time is Chris the Fighter. So I think for a little bit, I want to try to be Chris the dad and Chris the person.
I was going to say, because normally the question is how soon do you want to get back in there? But it seems like you want to take care of your personal life, deal with some other stuff, be Chris the father before you even think about taking another fight.
Yeah, they asked me like, "Oh, we're gonna fight the Felipe Hernandez fight in February," and like normally I'm like, "Yeah, like absolutely." But now, I think my coaches are kind of, and myself, even myself, we're all realizing that like at 36, I can do the camps, but mentally it's stressful for me. Physically, running from camp to camp to camp is stressful for me. Like I train full time, and I'm not a guy who like I'm not gonna go and be out of training for 2 or 3 months. I'll be back in training by the end of the week. You get guys fighting. So because I'm training year round, and then I just hop from camp to camp to camp. I mean, I'm grinding gears at 36. I'm grinding myself to the fucking bus, man. So I think we're all realizing I got to back up a little bit and give myself some time.
You fight, you take care of business, and there's two fights in between. I'm sure you're back in the locker room. Take us in your mindset watching your buddy, watching Sean fight. And then I guess first and foremost, did Sean win? There still seems very mixed.
Bro, so when I watch fights, especially my teammates' fights, I very rarely side with my teammates. I'm always cautious and I'm always kind of like when I'm doing the scoring, I go against them. So even me being pessimistic and conservative, I had it 3-2. I had him up 3-2. I personally think the optics of getting cut may have worked against him worse. Cuts cuts suck. Uh, but I think especially if you get cut like in the middle rounds later on the fight, as you're still bleeding in a close round, even though say you got cut, let's say you got cut the first round. If you're in the fourth round and you're still bleeding, it's a close round and you're still bleeding, they're gonna say, okay, well, he did more damage, even though that damage happened 3 rounds ago. I think refs are just bad at differentiating that. You're human, you go off your eye test. So I think that may have kind of scored it again. He may have lost points that he didn't deserve to lose because when it comes like who landed more in effective striking, I think he outlanded him. He touched him up. Sean had a cut with blood on him, but Dricus' face looked like he got hit by a small car. So uh it sucks. That sucks. I thought he won it. He looked great warming up. He was ready. Like this camp, everything was great, man. He looked phenomenal. It sucks to lose a belt like that, and it sucks to win a belt like that. So I'm really hoping they run it back to like get a more definitive answer because Canadian judging is interesting.
Are you surprised at all how big of a star he's become? Champion or not, he is becoming one of the, most popular faces of the sport. Are you surprised how quick this has happened?
Oh, it's wild. Like no one. We would joke before, but we joked a while ago. Like, oh man, Sean becomes champion. It's gonna be crazy. And then to see him become champion is one thing, but to see Sean going from the Sean I know to being loved by people, like, this week was wild in Canada. Seeing the amount of love he got, oh, it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. You could say, like, you guys don't get. We're at the press conference, and somebody's Dana's talking, and the crowd's like, "We love you, Sean." And somebody yells, "Strickland, tell me what to think." And I'm like, that is a scary thing that, like, he's that loved. It's crazy to see where he is now compared to where he was when I met him. So I love it for him. I'm so happy for him. But this week in Canada alone made me realize I don't want to be any more famous than I am.
Where do you stand? I mean, you guys are close, and I'm sure you don't believe everything that comes out of his mouth, but you guys
Absolutely not.
remain best friends. How do you tackle that, on a day-to-day basis, putting up with what he says, what he says to you, what he says to everybody else?
I mean, you don't. It's funny. People like me and Sean disagree on a lot. There's a lot of things. I'm like, nope, I'm not gonna back you on this one for one reason or another. And that's funny. People be like, you're a bad friend. Like, no, I'm a good friend. I'm not a yes man. Yeah, I won't be a yes man for anybody. Like, I'll call Sean on his bullshit the same way he'll call me on my bullshit. Like, good friends don't, jump off a cliff blindly behind you. But good friends, like, you're a fucking idiot for doing this, and here's why. So I don't have to agree with everything he says or does. Like, there are some lines he crosses when I will step forward. Like, hey, we've had talks before about certain things. Like, either a, like, this personally, this like offends me, or like this is me trying to protect you from yourself and getting screwed over. But I don't have to agree with everything he says. Like, I'm a grown ass man. He's a grown ass man. Like, if you're looking for a friend, if you only have friends that you completely agree with 100% of the time, like, you're probably a pretty a shallow person, and I just whatever. I don't have to agree with him. And I think in a way, our like vastly different personalities kind of keep each other more centered, but it is what it is. Like, he's a fucking grown man. He's gonna say shit I don't agree with. Let's say she doesn't agree with. It doesn't matter. Like, it's grow up, people.